Laureen Rahn was a bright and spirited 14-year-old girl living in Manchester, New Hampshire. Born on April 3, 1966, Laureen was known for her vibrant personality and her love for adventure. But on the night of April 26, 1980, her life took a dark and mysterious turn. It was a typical Saturday evening. Laureen had spent the day with her friends, and as night fell, she returned to her third-floor apartment, where she lived with her mother, Judith. Judith had gone out that evening, leaving Laureen home alone. When Judith returned in the early hours of April 27th, she discovered that her daughter was missing. The front door was unlocked and several lights in the apartment were left on. Laureen's shoes and purse were still inside, but there was no sign of her. The only clue was a strange phone call made from a motel in California, months later, that was charged to Judith's phone bill. What happened to Laureen Rahn? How could a young girl vanish without a trace from the safety of her own home? On the night of April 26, 1980, Laureen Rahn's evening began like any other. She spent the day with her friends, enjoying the spring weather and the freedom that comes with being a teenager. As night fell, she returned to her third-floor apartment in Manchester, New Hampshire. Her mother, Judith, had plans to go out that evening, leaving Laureen alone in the apartment. Around 1 a.m., Judith returned home. She was greeted by an unsettling scene. The front door was unlocked, a detail that immediately raised her concern. Inside, the apartment was eerily quiet, with several lights left on. Laureen's shoes were by the door, and her purse was on the kitchen table, but Laureen was nowhere to be found. Judith quickly checked Laureen's room, hoping to find her daughter asleep. Instead, she discovered an empty bed. Panic set in as she realized Laureen had vanished. Desperately, Judith called friends and neighbors, but no one had seen or heard from Laureen. The last person to see Laureen that night was a close friend who had walked her to the apartment building. They parted ways at the entrance, and Laureen entered the building alone. From that moment on, her whereabouts became a mystery. Adding to the confusion was a strange phone call made from a motel in California months later, charged to Judith's phone bill. Despite extensive investigations, this clue led nowhere, and the case grew cold. What transpired in those crucial hours remains one of the most perplexing aspects of Laureen Rahn's disappearance. Was she taken by someone she knew? Did she leave willingly? Or was there a more sinister force at play? As we continue to unravel this mystery, we will explore the chilling details and hidden clues that have baffled investigators for decades. As the hours turned into days, the Manchester Police Department launched an urgent investigation into the disappearance of Laureen Rahn. Officers canvassed the neighborhood, knocking on doors and questioning anyone who might have seen or heard something unusual. Despite their efforts, no concrete leads emerged. The initial police response focused heavily on the possibility that Laureen had left voluntarily. Friends and family were interviewed, but all insisted that Laureen had no reason to run away. She was described as a happy teenager with no apparent troubles at home or school. One of the first theories considered was that Laureen might have been abducted by someone she knew. Investigators looked into her social circle, scrutinizing acquaintances and anyone who had recently shown an unusual interest in her. However, this line of inquiry yielded no viable suspects. Another early lead came from the strange phone call made from a California motel, charged to Judith's phone bill. The call was traced, but when police arrived at the motel, they found no evidence linking it to Laureen. It was a dead end that only deepened the mystery. As the investigation progressed, various theories were put forward. Some speculated that Laureen had been taken by a stranger, possibly a serial predator. Others wondered if she had fallen victim to a more sinister plot, one that involved multiple people and careful planning. Despite the exhaustive efforts of law enforcement, the case quickly grew cold. The lack of physical evidence, combined with conflicting witness statements, made it increasingly difficult to piece together what had happened on that fateful night. The initial investigation left more questions than answers, and the mystery of Laureen Rahn's disappearance remained unsolved. The investigation took a bizarre turn when strange phone calls began to surface. These calls were traced back to a motel in Santa Monica, California, and were charged to Judith's phone bill. The first call was made just days after Laureen's disappearance, and more followed over the next few months. Each call deepened the mystery and led investigators down a convoluted path. The motel manager provided a chilling detail. A girl matching Laureen's description had been seen with an older man. This revelation sparked a new wave of hope and fear. Could Laureen have been taken across state lines? Was she being held against her will? But the plot thickened further when another missing girl's case was linked to the same phone number. This girl, also a teenager, had vanished under similarly mysterious circumstances. The connection between the two cases seemed too striking to be coincidental. Investigators speculated that they might be dealing with a serial abductor or a trafficking ring. The phone calls, however, led to another dead end. Despite the promising leads, no concrete evidence was found to link the motel to Laureen or the other missing girl. The older man seen with the girl was never identified, and the true purpose of those calls remained a haunting enigma. These mysterious phone calls, while intriguing, ultimately added another layer of complexity to an already perplexing case. They shifted the focus of the investigation and opened up new avenues of inquiry, but they also underscored the frustrating lack of clear answers. The investigation into Laureen Rahn's disappearance was riddled with false leads and dead ends. These missteps not only frustrated investigators, but also drained crucial resources and time. In the weeks following her disappearance, numerous tips poured in from across the country. Each new piece of information brought a glimmer of hope, but often ended in disappointment. One of the most compelling leads came from a woman in New York who claimed to have seen a girl matching Laureen's description. She reported seeing the girl in a shopping mall, accompanied by a group of people who seemed out of place. Investigators rushed to the scene, only to find that the girl was not Laureen. The witness had made an honest mistake, but it was a setback that weighed heavily on the team. Another promising lead emerged from a truck driver in Ohio who claimed to have given a ride to a girl who called herself Lori. She appeared distressed and mentioned needing to get away from someone. The description matched Laureen, and for a moment, it seemed as though they were on the verge of a breakthrough. However, after extensive interviews and cross-checking, it was determined that the girl was not Laureen, but another runaway with a similar story. These false sightings were just the tip of the iceberg. Over the years, several psychics came forward, each offering their own theories and visions. Despite the lack of concrete evidence, these claims were investigated thoroughly. Some psychics pointed to specific locations, prompting searches that yielded nothing but more questions. Even more perplexing were the misidentifications. On multiple occasions, authorities believed they had found Laureen, only to discover they had the wrong person. Each misidentification was a gut-wrenching experience for her family, who endured an emotional roller coaster with every false lead. Despite these setbacks, investigators persisted. They combed through every detail, re-interviewed witnesses, and followed up on every tip, no matter how improbable it seemed. But each new lead that ended in a dead end only deepened the mystery and underscored the frustrating lack of clear answers. As the years have passed, numerous theories and speculations have emerged regarding the fate of Laureen Rahn. Some believe she was abducted, taken by someone who had been watching her for some time. This theory is supported by the strange phone calls traced to California, suggesting she might have been taken far from her home. The lack of forced entry also hints at the possibility that Laureen knew her abductor, someone she trusted enough to let inside. Others speculate that Laureen may have run away. At 14, she was at an age where rebellion and the desire for independence can lead to drastic decisions. There were rumors that she had been unhappy at home and might have sought a new life elsewhere. But if she did run away, why has there been no trace of her for decades? A darker theory suggests that Laureen could have fallen victim to an underground network. Some investigators have considered the possibility that she was trafficked, sold into a life from which she could not escape. This theory is chilling but not implausible, given the mysterious circumstances and the era's growing awareness of human trafficking. The most unsettling speculation involves the idea that Laureen may have met a sinister fate closer to home. Could someone in her inner circle have had something to do with her disappearance? This theory is less discussed, but remains a haunting possibility. Each of these theories brings its own set of questions and doubts. While some are more plausible than others, none have led to concrete answers. the mystery remains, a puzzle with too many missing pieces. Over the decades, advancements in technology have revolutionized the way we investigate crimes and solve mysteries. The case of Laureen Rahn is no exception. As time has marched on, new tools and techniques have emerged, offering fresh hope in the search for answers. One of the most significant developments has been the advent of DNA testing. In the early 1980s, DNA profiling was still in its infancy, but today, it has become a cornerstone of criminal investigations. Cold cases across the globe have been reopened, and many have been solved thanks to the power of genetic evidence. Could the same hold true for Laureen? Investigators have scoured any available evidence for potential DNA, hoping that a match might one day lead them to her or to someone who knows what happened that fateful night. Digital forensics have also played a pivotal role. Modern technology allows law enforcement to analyze old phone records with a precision that was unimaginable decades ago. The mysterious phone calls traced to California have been re-examined using these advanced techniques, providing new insights and potential leads. Additionally, social media and online databases have become invaluable resources in missing persons cases, enabling investigators to cast a wider net in their search for clues. Facial recognition technology offers another promising avenue. Old photographs and age progression images of Laureen can be compared against vast databases, potentially identifying her if she is still out there, living under a different identity. Even with these technological advancements, the case remains unsolved. But the tools we now have at our disposal provide a renewed sense of hope and determination. As we continue to leverage these innovations, we inch closer to uncovering the truth behind Laureen Rahn's disappearance. The disappearance of Laureen Rahn has left a profound and lasting impact on her family, shrouding their lives in a cloud of unanswered questions and enduring pain. For her mother, Judith Rahn, the night Laureen vanished marked the beginning of a relentless search for truth and closure. The emotional toll has been immense, with each passing year bringing a mix of hope and despair. As of today, the case of Laureen Rahn's disappearance remains one of New Hampshire's most perplexing cold cases. Despite the passage of time, law enforcement agencies have not given up on finding answers. In recent years, technological advancements such as DNA testing and digital forensics have been applied to the evidence in hopes of uncovering new leads. Unfortunately, these efforts have yet to yield a breakthrough. However, the case remains open and active. Detectives continue to re-examine old evidence and follow up on any new tips that come in. The hope is that, one day, even the smallest piece of new information could shed light on what happened to Laureen Rahn. The family and community hold on to the hope that answers will eventually come, bringing much-needed closure to this decades-old mystery. As we reflect on the decades that have passed since Laureen Rahn's disappearance, it's crucial to remember that every piece of information, no matter how small, can make a difference. If you or anyone you know has any information about Laureen Rahn's case, please come forward. Your tip could be the missing piece that finally brings answers to her family and helps solve this enduring mystery. Raising awareness is equally important. Share Laureen's story with your friends, family, and on social media. The more people know about her case, the higher the chances that someone with crucial information will come forward. Community involvement has been instrumental in solving many cold cases, and your participation could be pivotal in finding justice for Laureen. Let's keep the conversation going and the light shining on Laureen Rahn and other missing individuals. Together, we can make a difference. Subscribe to our channel for updates on this case and other true crime mysteries. Thank you for watching, and remember, every voice counts.